What's up, guys? Welcome back to Daddy Dad's video. Today we're going to be starting off with our NBA offseason analysis.
What's up, guys? I know it's been a little while, but we were kind of waiting on a lot of this offseason stuff to happen. But KD, Kyrie, and Donovan Mitchell remain untraded. We're waiting for one of those possible major moves to happen, even though both MLB and NBA had some crazy offseasons that we'll go over here in just a moment. But first, let's talk about individually our thoughts on if these three players in the NBA are going to get traded. If they're going to get traded possibly during the season at the deadline, or if they're going to stay on their teams for possibly the whole year. Levi, what are your thoughts on KD's trade status?
I think Kevin Durant is going to stay on the Nets until either the deadline or just the entire year, but then get traded once this season's over to any possible teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it'll definitely depend how good the Nets are. I think if they're in a similar position to where they are this past season as the 7 seed in the Eastern Conference, I think that they will trade him at the deadline. If not, they shoot for the championship, even though it's going to be very tough with all the talent in the league right now. But I think people are sleeping on how helpful Ben Simmons can be to them, I think. And I think they're still at least a top 7 team in that Eastern Conference for sure, and definitely could get up there higher. How about Kyrie?
I think Kyrie Irving is going to get traded at the deadline. I don't know what teams he might go to, but I believe he's going to be traded.
Yeah, obviously many people, KD's been rumored for so many teams. First year was the Suns, but then they gave DeAndre Ayton that massive contract, so they're pretty much out of the market now. The Celtics made that kind of embarrassing package as they're really getting hate for trying to trade Jaylen Brown away. The Heat are still a possible option for him, as are what is very unlikely, but a team with a great package for him being the Golden State Warriors, his former team. And then Kyrie, most people think if he is to get traded, it'll be in a Westbrook swap with LA. And that could be what Kyrie wants. He opted into his contract extension with the Nets, which means he's at least going to be on the team for sure this coming season if he doesn't get traded.
Yeah, what do you think about Donovan Mitchell?
I think Donovan Mitchell is the most likely of these guys to get traded before the season starts. Even though he's still more likely to stay on the Jazz till the deadline, where I think this is the guy who I think is guaranteed to get traded at the deadline, in my opinion. Of course, the Jazz offered that huge trade to the Knicks, and the Knicks denied because it was just too much. But they're still in trade talks, and I think if there's a team that Donovan is going to get traded to during the offseason, it's the Knicks. And I think other teams like the Heat could definitely open up during the season.
Okay, moving on to what do you think about DeJounte Murray being traded to the Hawks with a now Trae Young and DeJounte Murray double point guard situation there?
Yeah, definitely. I was a little bit confused by it, but then I read more into the trade, and I like it if I'm the Atlanta Hawks. It's going to be very exciting to watch. It's going to bring more fans in, and they could be a very dynamic duo. And remember, just 2 years ago when the Bucks won it all, the Hawks faced them all the way in the Eastern Conference Championship. They were just a couple games away from making the NBA Finals with no DeJounte Murray, and all they have to give up was a little bit of their future and Danilo Gallinari. And the Spurs obviously didn't take much because the Spurs are in that running for next year trying to get Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, moving on to Rudy Gobert being traded to the Timberwolves.
I think this is a win for the Jazz. They got some key young pieces, especially Jared Vanderbilt, who's extremely underrated. But if I'm the Timberwolves, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it makes them too big. Of course, Cat's a great three-point shooter, which means he can definitely play the four offensively, but he's still pretty slow, and I think that could definitely get exposed defensively, especially in the playoffs. Expect them to be good in the regular season and possibly worse in the playoffs than they were this past year. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you saying about their size. And like you said, Cat is so good offensively with his size and his 3-point shooting package. But if you have to play the four, and like you said, he's not the fastest player. And Rudy Gobert is better for the Jazz, but not the T-Wolves are on the bad side of that trade.
I agree. Christian Wood going to the Mavs, I think is a really solid pickup for the Mavs. They didn't have to give up too much. And he's, I think, a better fit for them than Kristaps Porzingis, who they traded away earlier in the season. But they still have a chance to get Colin Sexton. But the Mavs, I think, are just going to do about the same as this past year. They're not going to improve at all if they don't bring in someone like Colin Sexton because they lost Jalen Brunson. I think they're going to be worse. And many people think they're one of the biggest losers in the offseason.
Yeah, Christian Wood, since they had to lose Jalen Brunson, like you said, I agree that they're either going to get worse or stay the same. They're not going to improve unless they can get more people to help move them forward. But moving on to Jeremiah Grant going to the Blazers.
I think this is a huge move for the Blazers, who I think had a really good offseason. Jeremy Grant's really underrated. And, of course, he became a little bit overrated after he exploded this past season with the Pistons in the first half and then cooled off a lot in the second. But I think he'll fit really well. And the Blazers could move up a lot with a healthy Dame Lillard this year and other offseason moves that we'll get into in a minute. Real quick, though, let's talk about, since we were on the topic of the Mavs, let's talk about Jalen Brunson going to the Knicks. Many Knicks fans are, of course, happy to have Jalen Brunson there, but they think the Knicks gave up way too much and could have been in much greater position to get Donovan Mitchell in if they didn't give up so much to get Jalen Brunson. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they easily could have had Donovan Mitchell over Jalen Brunson, but they had to give away so much, like you said, to get Jalen Brunson, and the Knicks community is not happy about that. Some of them might be, but overall, they'd rather have Donovan Mitchell.
And now what I think is probably the most underrated move of the offseason, Malcolm Brogdon being traded to the Celtics. Of course, many people think the Celtics are now losers during this offseason for trying to make that Kevin Durant trade. But since that trade didn't happen, they're still winners because they got Malcolm Brogdon for just Daniel Tice and Aaron Nesmith, who did practically nothing during their playoff run. And Brogdon is going to bring so much more value for them. I'm not sure how they're going to run their lineup, if they're going to keep it the same and have Brogdon come off the bench, or if they're going to switch him and Smart, or even run Brogdon, Smart, Tatum, Brown, and then either Horford or Williams with a smaller lineup.
Yeah, moving on to PJ Tucker to the 76ers.
Yeah, the 76ers also got Daniel House. So they get some really good role players, both who formerly played with James Harden on the Rockets. And, of course, everybody's talking about James Harden taking the pay cut to bring these guys in, claiming that he wants to win. I think that these guys will definitely help, and the 76ers are in the right direction, but I still don't think it's enough with James Harden decline in play the past couple of years.
Yeah, what do you think about the Nuggets getting KCP and Bruce Brown?
Really underrated move for the Nuggets. Getting two new role players to come off the bench for them. One of the most underrated players in the league, Bruce Brown, and another one in KCP. I think they really, truly are one of the biggest winners this offseason. If they get Michael Porter Jr. healthy, they're going to have Jamal Murray back. Jokic is coming off 2 MVPs. They're being a really slept-on team right now. What are your thoughts on Lonnie Walker going to the Lakers?
I think the Lakers were in a hard position this year with Russell Westbrook not being as good as this is the worst year that he's played, considering how well he was with the Thunder and how well he played before that, all those teams before the Lakers. And they do have LeBron James, but he is getting into the late years. He's already into the late years, so his game's starting to slow down. He's still a really good player, but not. They need to work on rebuilding their team, in my opinion. So then the next 5 years, they can go win another championship.
I disagree with you a little bit. I think they need to start. I think they need to rebuild, but I think they need to give it at least 2 more years. They're obviously going to try and trade Westbrook, even if it's not for Kyrie, but I don't know if that's going to be successful. But I think you have to try and win a championship while you still have LeBron. Once LeBron is gone, full rebuild, trade Anthony Davis and even Russell Westbrook if you still have him at that point, which is doubtful. But then some other role player pickups, Andre Drummond and Goran Dragic going to the Bulls for some depth, which many people are skeptical of. But I'm a fan of these trades. I think they'll help the Bulls. It's still not enough for them, as I still don't think they're going to be able to win those big games like they struggled this past year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Bulls, they have some good talent in DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine. And with those two adds, I think that they're going to do well next year, but they're still not going to be a super big title contender team.
Mm-hmm. All right, now let's go over. I'm just going to be going over my biggest winners and losers, which I've already been bragging about them a lot as we went through this list. But we got the Portland Trail Blazers, who of course acquired Jeremy Grant in that trade. Then they re-signed Anthony Simons, who put up great numbers this year and is good backcourt pairing for Dame, basically a C.J. McCollum replacement, basically just refreshing his years. Then they also draft Shaedon Sharpe, who could be a massive bust, but definitely has the potential to be great for them. And I think they're willing to take the risk here, which I think is smart. They need to win in their last. Dame is running out of time to win his championship. He's never gotten close with Portland, and I don't think he will still with this lineup, but I think this definitely gives him a much better chance than this past year's lineup. Then we also have the Boston Celtics, who, we talked about the Brogdon trade, and as long as they don't trade for KD, they're definitely winners because they also got J.D. Davidson all the way in the second round, who going into the draft was supposed to go higher. Going into the college season, he was supposed to go much higher, and he really impressed in Summer League and could be possibly a great steal for the Boston Celtics at a position that even though they acquired Brogdon, they still need more backcourt depth as they're fine down low, and they have two of the best wings in the league in Tatum and Brown. Then my losers are the Nets, simply because they weren't able to unload KD and Kyrie, and I don't think they will be able to before the season starts. And then also the T-Wolves, who there's other teams that could be considered losers of the T-Wolves, like the Mavs, but I think the Mavs, their one move was actually a good move, while the T-Wolves' one move, I think, is a negative move for them. And then let's go over some of the MLB trades. Levi, get us started.
Benintendi and Montas going to the Yankees.
Yeah, and then also more recently, just for the deadline, the Yankees also picked up Harrison Bader. So they grabbed 2 outfielders, and they trade Joey Gallo to the Dodgers. And then they get Frankie Montas on the mound, which I think is definitely their biggest addition, Montas. And then Benintendi has been just raking walks after walks since he's joined the Yankees. He's been on there a little bit longer. Really good pickup for them. And then the other Kansas City Royal, of course, our favorite team that left, Whit Merrifield to Toronto, of course, is having the worst season of his career. But Merrifield should be able to be a nice depth piece for Toronto and even be a pinch runner, as he's led the league in steals multiple times. Trey Mancini and Christian Vasquez went to the Astros. I think it's a very productive offseason for them. Vasquez is, of course, a very good catcher, an upgrade over Martin Maldonado, maybe not defensively, but much better offensively. And then Trey Mancini is a great bat for them coming from the Orioles.
Hader and Bell go to the Padres.
Yeah, Josh Bell, honestly, of course, we're going to talk about Juan Soto in a minute. Josh Bell's arguably having a better offensive season than Juan Soto. Of course, Juan Soto has more walks, but Josh Bell's really raking at the plate. Josh Hader is, of course, sorry about that thunder, guys. It's storming out here, and it's loud thunder. Anyways, Josh Hader is a great bullpen arm. Even though he's been struggling as of late, I think the Padres will be able to kind of turn him around and bring it back to one of the best, if not the best reliever in baseball. And then, of course, Juan Soto and Eric Hosmer, the whole trade chaos with them, with Hosmer not being able to go to the Nationals in his trade clauses and his contracts. But Padres were able to put Luke Voit into the trade to make the trade happen. They ended up sending Hosmer to the Red Sox, and of course, possibly the biggest trade in MLB history, Juan Soto is now a San Diego Padre.
Moving on, Luis Castillo to the Mariners.
Huge pickup for the Mariners, in my opinion. I still don't think it's enough. It should. I think this will be able to secure them a wild card spot if they continue to play the way they are. But it's definitely not going to win them a World Series, which likely, no matter what they did, unless they somehow acquired Juan Soto, they wouldn't be able to do it. But great underrated pickup for them. And then, like we said, Joey Gallo goes to the Dodgers, who, after finally getting out of New York where the fans hate him, maybe he can go back to his Ranger days with the LA Dodgers.
Next up, Jorge Lopez, Jake Dykman, and Tyler Mahal boost Twins pitching.
I think these are all big pickups for Minnesota, especially Jorge Lopez, one of the best pitchers in the game. Jake Diekman also comes in relief to really help them out. And then Tyler Mahle as a starter really should help the Twins, who should easily win the AL Central now. And then finally, the Mets pick up Daniel Vogelbach as a Dominic Smith replacement at DH. And then finally, let's go ahead and get into NFL. Obviously, just stating the news, Deshaun Watson has been suspended 6 games this upcoming season, which hurts the Browns, of course, a little bit because I could see them easily going 0-6 in those 6 games. But once they get Watson back, they should be one of the best teams in the NFL, and 6 games is not as harsh as it could have been. And then, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of a QB tier list here. So give us just a second to set this up. All right, here we go. So we got MVP level, elite, great, good, average, decent, trash, and don't know, too early to tell. Tier list made by this guy. Throwing him some credit there. And then let's get started with, of course, 49ers now backup quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo.
I think Jimmy Garoppolo should go in the decent column.
I agree. He could definitely move up to average how he wins games, but talent level, he's definitely decent, and probably more towards trash than average, honestly.
Yeah.
Then we got Matt Ryan, the new Indianapolis Colt. Of course, was great during some points of his career, but now he's much older, and I would put him in decent or average. What are you thinking?
I say just put him in average.
I think he still has a little bit more talent than Garoppolo, really similar to Jimmy, so we might move him down to decent here in a minute, but for now he's an average. And then I think another definition of an average quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who definitely could go up to good. And these aren't going to be in order. I'm just switching there because Kirk Cousins is better than Matt Ryan right now.
Yeah.
And then we got rookie Kenny Pickett of the Steelers. Should be the Steelers' starting quarterback this year. And I think we're going to put all the don't know too early to tell because they haven't even played preseason, you know.
I think Kenny Pickett is going to do really well in the NFL, but I agree with you putting all of the rookies in too early to tell.
Next up, we got Joe Burrow. He's really controversial because some people put him MVP, some put him all the way down to good because many people think they're overreacting to the Super Bowl run. But I personally would put him in great.
Yeah, I would agree. Great, moving up to elite maybe in the next year.
Obviously, if the offensive line helps him, his stats will definitely go to elite. He already has elite stats. But if his offensive line continues to improve with all those great wide receiver options he has, plus Joe Mixon, Bengals really are a scary team. Then we got Justin Herbert, who I think we can't quite put him in MVP yet, but he definitely goes into elite at the latest. And then how about Derek Carr here? Another controversial one. Some people think he's elite and super underrated. Some people still have him lower.
I say let's put him in great, but on like the lower end of great.
Between great and good. Then we got Jared Goff, who's closer to trash than Jimmy G, but I think he just goes in decent.
Yeah.
He still has, he was the number 1 overall pick. He's got some talent, but he is honestly pretty similar to Jimmy G, and he had a similar run going to the Super Bowl with the LA Rams, you know?
Yeah.
Then we got Mac Jones, who was the best rookie of the rookies last season, but he was also on a better team than them. I mean, I think he's average.
Yeah, I would say average.
Probably going to put up a better record than these two, but the Colts could be scary record-wise just because of how weak their division is. But then we got Patrick Mahomes, obviously, goes into MVP. Definitely a top 3 most talented quarterback in the NFL at this stage. Tom Brady was never the most talented. He was the best of all time, but not the most talented. Then we got Mitch Trubisky, who I think goes into trash, honestly. That Pro Bowl shirt he's wearing, he didn't deserve that. Then we got Aaron Rodgers, straight into MVP as well.
Yep.
And then we got Tyrod Taylor, who now isn't even a starter for the Texans, with Davis Mills, super underrated, taking over. So he goes into trash. Even though he used to have the talent, just injuries delayed his career. Now he's getting up there in age. Then we got another controversial one, Baker Mayfield. What are your thoughts on him?
I say that's put in average.
I agree. Baker Mayfield fits right into average. I think he's a little underrated. I think a lot of people would put him down in decent. And then Jameis Winston, who I think is decent. He has the talent level of somebody up here, but his production is more like these guys.
Yeah.
Then we got Matt Stafford coming off the Super Bowl win. I would say I think it's great. Since we put Joe Burrow in great, I think those two, the Super Bowl contenders against each other, are pretty similar.
He had a lot of good receivers on their team. Both of the two he did with Jamar Chase. Then he had Cooper Kupp, OBJ, really good defense with like Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey.
Then we got Josh Allen, also straight in MVP.
Yep.
And remember, they're not in order, so don't think too much about that top. We got Lamar Jackson, who I would put in elite.
Yeah.
We got Davis Mills, who I was just talking about with the Tens. I think it's kind of too early to put him in average. I think he played real well last season. I think we'll put him in decent for now.
Yeah.
And then who is that there? Oh, Justin Fields, who was not great last season. I don't know if it's too early to put him in trash. Do you think it's too early to put him in trash?
No, I'll put him in trash.
You really think trash?
Yes.
All right, trash it is. Then we got Trevor Lawrence, who honestly probably deserves to go in trash as well, but his team is so horrible. It's going to be a little bit better this year. He'll have his old teammate Travis Etienne. Just put him in deep.
Yeah.
He's got the talent level of these guys. At least what we saw in college.
His team sucks.
Yeah. Then we got another rookie out of Liberty, Malik Willis. And then the new Seahawk, Drew Lock, I think goes into trash.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz, now on the Commanders. Decent or average?
Yeah, I say decent.
I agree. I think he's similar level to Garoppolo. Then we got Kyler Murray.
I say
Great or elite is what I'm thinking.
low end of elite for me.
Okay. Kyler Murray into elite. Then we got Sam Darnold here. Trash.
Yeah.
Then we got Deshaun Watson, who we were talking about. We didn't see him play last season. He could definitely be great. Let's slide him into good for now. Our first good.
Yeah.
Trey Lance, the new 49ers starter named. I think it's still don't know because he barely played last season.
Yeah.
So we got to put him in there with the rookies. Then rookie Desmond Ridder. Ryan Tannehill. I would say average. Yeah. Zach Wilson.
Too early to tell.
Honestly, I feel like it is just because he could rebound this next season.
Yeah.
I think it's too early for talent, which honestly we could put Trevor Lawrence there too.
Yeah.
Let's put Trevor Lawrence there. And honestly, I think Justin Fields is already on his career path to not be great, so we'll keep him in trash. Dak Prescott, I would say good here.
Yeah. Some people would say that he was elite.
Can I make a change?
Yes.
I think we move Derek Carr to good.
Okay.
Because I think Dak Prescott's better than Derek Carr, and Kyler Murray to great.
Okay.
I think that's solid. Yeah, I really like the top. Russell Wilson. Here's a tough one. Great.
Yeah,
I think great.
Yeah.
At this point in his career, definitely just great, I think.
Yeah.
Then we got AJ Corral. rookie Sam Howell, and then Jalen Hurts, another guy who could too early to tell. But personally, I already think he's at least average. And he's going to continue to grow. I really like him. He's a great fantasy quarterback. Then we got Tua Tagovailoa. Do we put him in decent for now?
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill thinks he's a GOAT, but then we got Tom Brady straight into MVP.
Tyreek Hill was on the Dolphins. You have the Chiefs.
Yeah. Then we got Daniel Jones, trash. And then Marcus Mariota has been in the league quite a while now, like James Winston. He's became benched. I think he's trash as well. I think he's underrated and could go into decent. But, all right, guys, there's our tier list for you. See you guys next